It's my pleasure to welcome you all to our first Captains of Industry talk of the new academic year. Through this series, we bring industry leaders who are experts in their field to the university, people with the power to inspire students, graduates, and the wider GCU community. Today, we are kicking off the series in style with GCU graduate and Chief Operating Officer of Advanced Clothing Solutions, Anthony Burns. Originally an engineering graduate, Anthony also has an MBA, but most importantly, he has a master's in logistics from GCU. Anthony has been with ACS for over 15 years now, whose primary focus is around extending the life of a garment. As a recognised champion of sustainable fashion, Anthony's mission is to improve the industry by becoming more socially accountable, whilst also accelerating increases in profitability. This mission is very close to our own here at GCU, where our programmes are underpinned by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and we very much focus on the promotion of fair and sustainable business, with fashion in particular being one of our most popular and successful areas. Anthony is also a champion of supporting the well-being and professional development of his team, and also in nurturing new talent. ACS have been great supporters of GCU over the years. They have invested in graduate apprenticeships, research initiatives, and also been great at involving students in various projects and events. So on behalf of everyone at the university, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Anthony, Michael, his colleague here, who's also here today, and the whole team at ACS for your very much valued support. And we also look forward to continuing the partnership over the years. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to you, Anthony, to kick off your talk.
Thank you, Jill. Once upon a time, our planet was a green and pleasant place. Summers were warm and dry and sunny, pleasantly warm. Winters were cold and snowy and frosty. Guess what happened next? It all changed. When summers were oppressively hot, the Amazon burned, Siberia burned, Australia burned, California burned. There was summer flooding. There was winter flooding. There was no snow. There was no frost, no ice, no polar ice caps, no polar bears. What have we done? Today, I'll talk for 20 minutes or so about ACS, a business which is part of the fashion industry, a fashion industry which is the second biggest polluter globally after oil, a fashion industry which contributes more to CO2 emissions than aviation and shipping put together. A fashion industry which, if it goes unchecked, will utilise 25% of the world's carbon budget by 2050. But at ACS, we do things differently. We facilitate circular business models of clothing rental and clothing resale. These circular business models undoubtedly decouple economic growth from the extraction of natural virgin resources. These models are highly attractive to the brands and retailers, the partners we work with, because they can use them as an extension of their operation, use ACS as an extension of their operation, which allows these brands and retailers to embrace sustainability and embed circular practice within linear business models. So ACS history. We were established in 1997 in one store, which is called Gilt Edged. It's down in the Salt Market in Glasgow. It's still there. It is about 15 minutes walk from Glasgow Caledonian University. And this store started renting out men's Highland wear, kilts and jackets. And it sort of grew to renting out Highland wear across a variety of menswear stores in Glasgow and west of Scotland. And it flourished into renting across the UK. And we became eventually the world's largest kilt rental company. We moved in 2004 into a facility just on the eastern suburbs of Glasgow, and 25,000 square foot. And we started in 2006 renting men's formal wear. That's tuxedos, tailcoats, suits, all for black tie events and weddings. We expanded that facility in 2009. And in 2011, we bought our largest competitor in the UK and became UK's largest men's rental wear supplier. And it's all wholesale, predominantly to retailers, multiple retailers and independents across the UK. We ended up shipping about 3 million items annually. In 2013, we moved to a new facility at Eurocentral, about another 8 miles east of Glasgow, 85,000 square foot. I'll talk about it later. In 2014, we set up a facility in the US. Why in the US? Because it's a huge market for clothing rental, £1.3 billion at retail level. Per head of population, more people rent in the US than in any other country in the world. The facility we had was 240,000 square foot. It was in Memphis in Tennessee. Why Memphis, Tennessee? Because it's where FedEx are based. You can ship anywhere by air overnight. But more importantly, you can hit 66% of US zip codes from Memphis in 2 days by road. So we partnered with JCPenney and Tip Top Tux and Al's Formal Hire, the second largest tuxedo rental chain in the US. It was a tough operation in the US though. It's still going, but we eventually exited the US. We sold that part of the business. We learned a lot from it, and we began to focus on the UK market, because the UK clothing rental and resale is a booming market, and we started to offer a 3PL service in 2018 to ladies' dress rental companies. And we also started to facilitate re-commerce where we clean and repair items which have been out on e-com deliveries, and they come back dirty or damaged. They've been tried on and they've got dirty marks like fake tan, makeup, buttons have come off. And this operation of salvaging these garments is a lot more profitable for everyone involved, for the retailers, and it's a lot more sustainable because these items would have gone to landfill otherwise. 2020, we won the Moss menswear rental contract. Moss are the biggest single rental company, clothing rental company in the UK. And in 2021, we partnered with an American company called Castle, and they facilitate clothing subscription in the US to lots of large retailers like Ralph Lauren, Banana Republic, Loft, Diane von Furstenberg, and these retailers offer rental in addition to retail. We were also invited to join the Ellen MacArthur Foundation as an emerging innovator. Next, I'm going to play a short video, 4 minutes, and it shows you the ACS facility. I'm going to wait for a second here just to the video catches up, because it's quite a big file, so if you bear with me just for a few seconds. This will show you the type of automation we have on site. Most of our automation generally tends to be German. Most of our machines like pressing and dry cleaning tend to be Italian. So I'm going to play this just now. If the text is out of sync with the words, please just give it a second to catch up.
Have you ever considered introducing rental or resale to your brand? More and more retailers are moving towards a circular economy. Rental and resale both extend the life of an existing garment and minimize the losses experienced through managing returns. The process of transitioning may seem complex, but what if someone else overlooked and executed the transition and overall operation? Let's begin with the onboarding process. Upon joining our operations, the first step in the process is to link your website to our systems using advanced API links. This ensures that all orders placed on your website will be sent directly to our warehouse management system, maximizing efficiency. Once the garments arrive on site, discrete RFID tags are sewn into each item. The use of RFID technology allows us to track garments whilst on site and increases accuracy and efficiency further as we have the ability to scan multiple garments instantaneously. Each SKU is then added to our system and you are ready to go. Once up and running, we manage the entire reverse logistics process. Whether rented, returned or pre-loved and ready for resale, every item that arrives back on site at our facility is treated with the same delicate care. Checking. First, we scan the items collectively thanks to the integrated RFID technology. The unworn items identified by ribbons still attached are treated on a case-by-case basis. Those without ribbons are sent to the cleaning and sanitization. Each item is scanned throughout each of the following steps. Sanitization. Every item goes into our large ozone sanitization chamber. When working at full capacity, we can sanitize 30,000 garments per day. This process eradicates odors, bacteria, germs, and viruses, sanitizing garments to a medical grade standard. Garments that are marked or stained are then treated by our laundry specialists before being cleaned in our ozone laundry machine for a more robust yet low impact clean. The filters built in our washing machines capture hazardous microplastics and minimize water pollution. The use of ozone allows us to clean and sanitize items using minimal water and energy. Care and repair. Where necessary, garments are then passed to our expert textile specialist who repair tears, replace zips and buttons, and make light tailored adjustments. Steam. Once ready, garments travel around our facility in our state-of-the-art sortation system along to the steam tunnel. Our steam tunnel can be adjusted to suit the materials of each garment and can rapidly steam 1,500 items per hour. Protect. Once steamed, they travel again to the bagger where they are covered in a recycled poly to protect them from any particles in the air, keeping them in a pristine condition whilst in storage. This poly is 100% recycled at source. That's it, the garments are processed and ready for their next order. Fast-moving items then travel to our dynamic buffer where they remain until they are rented or ready to leave our facility once more. This dynamic buffer can store 45,000 items at any given time, and we have the capacity to extend this to 60,000. But it doesn't stop there. We have an abundance of static storage space with a current capacity of approximately 3 million items. When an order is due to leave our facility, the items travel to our packing stations where they are packed and ready for dispatch via your chosen courier. The circular economy is going to change the way we live and consume. It's the future of fashion, and ACS can help you get there with minimal risk and maximum reward. Introducing rental or resale in partnership with ACS will create an additional stream of revenue with minimal upfront investment. Our extensive R&D, resources, expertise, capacity, and environmentally friendly processes make us perfectly positioned to fulfill your circular solutions at scale. It's profitable, sustainable, innovative, and scalable. It's for the people, the planet, and economic profit. It's advanced clothing solutions. Join us. Have you ever considered...
Hopefully that video will give you a flavour for what we do, and it's difficult to articulate that in words. So our facility, it's 85,000 square foot. It's about 200,000 plus with the different mezzanines and floors on site. You know, it's purpose built for rental, e-commerce and returns and resale. And it is unique. There are many warehouses and third-party logistics facilities across the world, across Europe and the UK, but none of them are designed specifically to facilitate rental and returns, e-commerce. Our facility is built to facilitate all that, and it's at the heart of what we do in terms of returning all our items and taking care of them. So it's fully automated. We use RFID technology, as you saw in the video. RFID technology supports us because rental and resale is all about data management, gives us immediate, instantaneous information. You do not need line of sight that you need with barcode technology. A steam tunnel excellent capacity of 1,500 items per hour. A talented individual pressing a jacket would maybe achieve 12 per hour. The steam tunnel does a better job and much greater throughput. Our pick sorter, 5,000 items per hour. It doesn't make mistakes, highly accurate, highly productive, and with lots of hanging capacity. We have ozone technology. In the video, you'll have seen it in 2 formats. Ozone, fundamentally, it kills germs and it removes odour. To put it into perspective, ozone technology leaves our garments after treatment much, much cleaner and sanitised than an excellent restaurant preparation area. We measure these things scientifically via CFUs. You can measure colony forming units on garments. And also, if you consider a garment after rental compared to one on the high street in a retail shop, there's a misconception that these garments in retail shops are clean. Studies have shown the contaminants on retail items are quite severe, whereas rental items are spotlessly clean. So our partner portfolio, if we think of menswear, we supply menswear to retailers, multiple retailers like Slater's, like Next. Cameron Ross is our own brand, which is supplied to a variety of independent menswear and bridal shops across the UK. We used to supply many more multiple retailers like Austin Reed and Debenhams, but with the high street not being in a good way, many of these retailers have gone to the wall. However, clothing rental is growing rapidly, and it's growing with the brands that you see on the right hand side. My Wardrobe HQ, Higher Street, Endless Wardrobe, other ones like Rotaro are all dress rental companies where we offer a 3PL solution to them. And these businesses, we brought them on as startups. They own the stock, and we offer a turnkey solution to them in terms of their back-end fulfillment. There are huge barriers to entry for small businesses, and what we're doing is hopefully allowing them to grow seamlessly and change consumers how they embrace fashion. So we also support baby clothing rental companies like Bundley and Graceful Changes, where parents will receive a batch of 15 items when their child is born, and then every 3 months they'll receive another 15 items, 0 to 3, 3 to 6, and so on. And this is a whole lot more sustainable and a lot more profitable for the retailer, but also it's better for the purse and the wallet of the parents. Down in the bottom left, some of the brands that we work with in terms of e-commerce: ACS, Phase 8, Whistles and Hobbs. Dynasty is a small skiwear brand where we facilitate a resale scheme for them. So the parents of the kids' skiwear return the item to us. They get a credit against buying a new item, and we clean and repair and sanitize the item and resell it on behalf of Dynasty. Subscription rental, I mentioned Castle earlier. There's 2 brands in the UK at the moment that are doing this on scale. Mossbox, which is Moss Bros, and LK Bennett. LK Borrowed is their brand, and if you have a subscription with LK Bennett, you pay £60 a month and you get 2 items at a time, which you can swap over as often as you like. And basically it's like having a revolving wardrobe. Brands across the US and Asia to an extent are embracing this. We're a little bit behind in the UK because we have a culture of ownership in the UK, predicated on the fact many people own our own homes, but it's changing to a culture of usership, and subscription clothing rental will help facilitate that. So lastly, in terms of our strategic aims, we are working hard to realise the elimination of VAT from sustainable fashion in the UK. We've spoken on multiple occasions to the United Nations about this. We have been speaking to politicians at Holyrood and at Westminster, and we are really keen to use COP26 as a vehicle to realise change on this front, because we do need to level the playing field. ACS is competing with global fast fashion companies, companies that don't take care of the environment, that don't take care of the people working in the supply chain, and we're competing with them. So the elimination of VAT would really help consumer make a more sustainable choice. In the middle there, we are keen to be recognised as a circular business. Mentioned earlier, we have been invited to join the Ellen MacArthur Foundation as an emerging innovator. The largest circular organisation globally have invited us, so it's good, but there's more to be done there. We've filled in their Circulytics audit and we get a really high score. We're also working towards becoming a B Corp. We're about to submit our application, and a B Corp, for anyone that doesn't know, is badge of honour that recognises the businesses that become B Corps as they have the highest environmental and social agenda. It's important that we achieve and maintain zero waste to landfill. That was one of the first things that we did when we embarked upon our sustainability journey, is we looked at our waste management, and we found that by cutting down on the amount of waste that we create, we also were more profitable because we saved money. And that's very prevalent with all the things we've done from a sustainability perspective. They have also made us more profitable also. So reduce carbon emissions to zero. That's important we do that. We're on a journey to net zero. At the moment, we have achieved carbon neutrality, and we're doing that by identifying our emissions and then measuring them. And we are including, as part of those calculations, scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and we are voluntarily including scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 includes me driving to work, or it also includes all our staff commuting to work. It also includes our partners like DPD delivering parcels across the UK on our behalf. But we know that DPD is also carbon neutral, so we are double offsetting. But to ensure that we are not accused of greenwashing, we are using an external partner called Climate Partner to independently verify that we are carbon neutral. So we've also, in the middle there, we've converted 100% to renewable energy. We've already done that for electricity. So it's a big step along our journey to net zero. In terms of eco-friendly cleaning systems, ozone is a great way of sanitizing garments, but it also does that by using no water and no chemicals, and it doesn't damage the garments. Every time you put a garment in a drum of liquid, whether it be chemical like dry cleaning or even just water, it slowly degrades the garment. So ozone as a gas doesn't do that. But we also use ozone as a gas in laundry, where we pump in ozone gas into the water and it sanitizes garments at temperatures under 35 degrees Celsius. And this is really ideal for baby clothing, lightweights, and ladies' dresses, because every time you warm garments up and you high temperatures, it potentially shrinks them and it damages the fibers. Also, ozone is naturally occurring in the stratosphere, which is high up in the atmosphere, so it's a naturally occurring gas. Bottom left, we are very conscious of prioritising health and well-being for all our staff and our local communities. During lockdown, we ran courses for all our staff to support them with mental health, with other things in terms of reducing energy, reducing water and food waste. And we also have ongoing things in the canteen, where we have Weight Watchers Wednesday and Meat-Free Monday. So we do try and support our staff with health and well-being. We also have a programme where we've got a PhD student working with us from academia, who will be doing cutting-edge research into the benefit of physical activity in the workplace and how it can potentially improve productivity and mental health being for staff. We are focused on our biodiversity in our local area, because we do not want to be a big tin shed which has broken pallets and cardboard and plastic blowing about in our yard. So we have set up a biodiversity bubble around ACS. We have beehives on site. We have a wormery on site. So the food waste which leaves our canteen, it goes into the wormery. The worms eat the food waste and turn it into compost. The compost is then used in our polypropylene tunnel, which grows fresh fruit and vegetables, and they can be used in our canteen again. So that circular journey there very much reflects the circular nature of our business models. We also have a green wall at our reception area. It's full of plants outside. And we're planting more trees and wildflowers across the site. And lastly, we are keen to be the social and accountable benchmark for Scotland. We have a duty of care as a good corporate citizen to do the right thing. And we firmly believe in people, planet and profit, and this very much reflects that. So some of the things that are important from a social perspective, because sustainability isn't just the environment, it's about social agenda also. We have an inclusive recruitment policy. We've been recruiting from this disabled workforce. We have been recruiting from disadvantaged backgrounds, for people who have been in long-term care, and it's creating our own talent pipeline, because resource is not easy, good resource is not easy to find. And we're very much aware that the fashion industry has a horrific reputation, and that's something that we are trying to embed change with school children during COP26. We have 8 separate days. We have 500 school children and their teachers coming on site to learn about fashion and look at different ways in which they can engage with fashion, which is better than the linear retail model. And we are working with schools to create education programs in schools about fashion. And hopefully this will create lots of meaningful green jobs, which will help in our transformation towards net zero. And lastly, we have a large event in Glasgow Caledonian University on the last day of COP26, which is a fashion event with lots of different school kids and students at it, and we're trying to, raise the profile on sustainable fashion. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Anthony. That was such an interesting talk and a great way to kickstart our series. We're pleased today to be joined by students, graduates and staff from across our Glasgow, London and New York campuses. And I know many of you have submitted questions prior to the event, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. But if you've not already done so, you can do this by putting your questions in the chat box and I'll ask them on your behalf. Or if you want to ask Anthony in person, you can do so by pressing the raise hand button, which can be found in the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. But for now, we'll start with our pre-submitted questions. So the first one comes from Nina, and she asks, how will/is sustainability woven into your marketing and communication strategy?
So it's a good question. It's a good question. So certainly sustainability and how we do things is our USP, but we recognise that we haven't been as good at communicating that over previous years. We're trying to do more on that front. We're trying to differentiate ourselves from vast swathes of the fashion industry. And at the moment, we actually have 2 KTPs, which are knowledge transfer partnerships, in conjunction with Innovate UK and academia. And one of them is a technical KTP about designing a new sanitisation chamber. But also we have a management KTP, which is a marketing one, which is basically trying to build on the message we're trying to get across in terms of sustainability, to engage with our partners, the brands and retailers we work with, but also to give them the tools to engage with the consumers, because we're pretty much mainly B2B, but we need to give our partners who have the touch points with the consumers the information that they need to basically engage with these consumers and change their behaviour.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So the second one comes from Lauren, and she asks, what is your view on the idea of greenwashing, and is it doing more harm than good?
Well, in terms of greenwashing, I think it is very prevalent. I'd mentioned that we're carbon neutral now, and we're using an external partner to externally, independently verify that we are carbon neutral. So no one can say we're greenwashing and we're including Scope 3 emissions, which we didn't need to do as part of our carbon neutrality. But are all businesses doing this? When a business says they're sustainable, what does that really mean? There's some, big retailers in the UK that have claims of sustainable practice, and they have 50 lines, 50 SKUs out of 15,000 that are available for rental, and they shout about it like they are the most sustainable business on the planet. So we need to have more and more measurements in terms of how businesses can actually say they are sustainable. At least with carbon neutrality, there are measurements in place.
That's great, thank you. I hope that answers your question. And the next one is from a staff member at GCU, Natasha, and she asks, what are the biggest myths you've had to bust with brands and consumers in pursuing an innovative, sustainable fashion agenda?
Well, I touched on this slightly. We've found that everything we've done from a sustainability perspective has also made us more profitable. And it's as simple as things like the recycling that I mentioned earlier, cutting down our waste management. We did things which are very effective, like taking away waste paper bins from everyone's desks, because what ends up in the bin is the banana, the plastic bottle, the paper, fruit, mixed things, and they all end up in general waste. Take the bins away, and this was a suggestion by our staff as part of our engagement with them on sustainability, is it makes them more active. They get up to a recycling centre and they split their waste, and it saved us a lot of money, and it cut down on our waste in terms of, and we're now nothing goes to landfill on our site. So I think that reflects other things that we've done, like we've changed all the lights on site from halogens to smart LEDs, and it's cut our electricity bills by £20,000 annually, and it's also cut our CO2 emissions by about 16 tonnes every year. And those things, many like it, prove that being sustainable doesn't cost extra money. It saves money, and I think that's something that maybe there's misconceptions that there's a lot of effort, and it's easy to do these things. Small steps can be taken immediately. And lastly, in terms of brands, there's a perception from consumers that second-hand clothing and rental clothing is dirty. We know by technology that we use, ozone technology, and how the garments are treated, that second-hand and rental clothing is much, much cleaner than retail clothing. But that is one of the biggest barriers we have, and we're trying to break down those barriers about used clothing.
That's brilliant, thank you so much. And the next question we have is from Paula, who's a graduate, and she asks, do you have any advice for graduates entering the job market in 2021?
I would say that from ACS perspective, sustainability is really important, particularly with the circular business models that we offer. However, I would say that it's important for all businesses. It's not just the fashion industry which is polluting the environment. And I think the businesses and organisations that embrace sustainability are the ones which are probably better to work for, because they will take care of their staff more and take care of the environment, and they're probably the businesses which are going to be more successful in the future. So I would suggest it's a good thing to look at the sustainability credentials of any potential business that a graduate is going to join.
Perfect, thank you. And just a reminder, if anybody wants to ask Anthony a question in person, you can just raise your hand and I'll come to you directly. or if you want me to ask one on your behalf, just put it in the chat box. But we've got other pre-submitted ones here. So one from Diane, who's a graduate, and she asks, do brands approach you, or how do you take the initiative to approach brands to come to ACS, and what is their interest level in this currently?
So I would say 3 years ago, most of our business was outbound calls, and we contacted partners and said, hey, we have solutions here, and we had good success. I would say there's been a step change over the last couple of years, and now we have more inbound calls, and I believe a lot of this is to do, we have focused on people and planet and sustainability, and it is undoubtedly supporting us in terms of realizing revenue, new revenue and profitability. So there's been a step change, and I think COVID in some way has expedited change for brands and retailers, and it's expedited change for consumers as well, because they realize that they cannot continue to do as they always have done. They need to make more sustainable choices. Saying that, it's still a slow burn, and we have a lot of work to do to continue to sort of realize change.
Perfect, thank you. And the next question comes from Clemens, who's also a graduate, and she asks, how can the labels on clothes be made more informative with regards to their origin and who made them?
Good question. So it would be ideal if all garments manufactured had some sort of tag in them. We use RFID technology, but some QR code. There's companies out there that are retrospectively offering these solutions, like Eon, and they can put a QR code in a garment that then starts to show the history of that garment. It only shows the history from the point at which they put the QR code in, but the technology is there. If manufacturers would embrace this and do it from the start, it would certainly help consumers, and it would help ACS a lot. But we do certainly have a history of everything that happens to all our rental and resale garments on site because of our use of our RFID technology, which is passive, but you can write to them also.
That's great, thank you very much. And the next question comes from Christine, and she asks, what is your biggest challenge during this surreal time for your business?
I would say our biggest challenge undoubtedly has been staff, because if I sort of rewind back to March 2020, we had 130 staff at our facility, and unfortunately we had to make many of them redundant, and we cut our headcount to about 50 odds, and we had to cut again before we found out in October that they were extending furlough. So in April this year, restrictions were still very much in place, and we were shipping menswear 45 orders per week. After restrictions eased, 10 weeks later, we were shipping 10,000 a week. The ramp up was massive, exponential growth, and it was difficult to recruit enough people, and particularly with the skills. Brexit hasn't been kind to us or many businesses, so skills have not been prevalent. We've tried to mitigate this, that we have set up ACS as an SQA centre, so it's a Scottish Qualifications Authority centre where we can offer in-house vocational qualifications in textile care, in sewn products and in logistics. So we can create our own talent pipeline, but it takes time, and staffing has certainly been our biggest challenge. We've tapped into the Kickstart scheme where we're offering all the staff that join us from the Kickstart scheme VQs as well, and we're hopeful that over the winter, by continuing working with disadvantaged groups, we will help mitigate the staffing challenges.
Thank you very much, that's a brilliant thing to do. And the next one comes from Tracy, and she asks, how will the lack of CO2 affect the fashion and textile industry in their efforts to become sustainable?
This may be my naivety over how CO2 is used in clothing manufacture. what I would say is, from an ACS perspective, we don't have any requirement for CO2 as part of our operations. However, what worries me sort of more is if there were to be a gas shortage over the winter, and that has been spoken about a lot. Gas would certainly have an impact on us, because we have a boiler that runs many of the machines, the steam that is needed for the machines. So less so CO2, but certainly gas.
Thank you, that's great. The next question comes from a graduate, Susie, who asks, can ethical garment manufacturers really take back the high street from operators trading on exploited labour and ecologically damaging long-haul freight?
Well, I hope so. I really do. And I think I sort of touched on this earlier. We need to, for these companies that are doing things ethically, we need to support them more. And by government legislation needs to come in to help realise change on this front by removing VAT from sustainable fashion. And that would be the biggest thing that could be done to level the playing field, as I mentioned earlier, to support these businesses when they're competing with global fast fashion companies.
That's great, thank you. So we've got a couple of pre-submitted questions left. So if anybody else would like to ask a question, please do so in the chat box or just raise your hand and I'll come to you directly. So the next question is from Sharon, who's a graduate. Bear with me, it's quite a long question. She says, please can you discuss end of life and dead stock management in your rental models? What is the plan for inventory that no longer rents or sells? And what is the monetary value of ridding inventory that no longer performs financially? Can a profitable business be made for sale off of such dead merchandise? And are brands as responsible for this as producers?
Okay, I think there's a few questions in there. If I try and maybe answer them in order. Plan for inventory that no longer rents or sells. There's different bits to this. There's some inventory which is ex-hire, as we call it, where it's not good enough to give to an individual for a wedding or a party or a function, but it's still pretty, maybe just got a little nick in it somewhere, can't wear for a wedding. For Highland wear, there's a great market on resale for that. It can be sold again. Many people are happy to wear Highland wear when it's not maybe just right, but it's good enough. For other items, there's a lot of fashionability that exists there. So we try and work with partners. We work with a partner called SOEX, and we have another ethical supplier that we work with, partner we work with now, and they could take garments away and they try and reuse them in other countries, or they recycle them. Worst case, they recycle them and they basically break those garments down into their constituent parts and they create new fibres off of those garments, and even the dust from the process there gets turned into packaging materials. The monetary value of ridding inventory, it doesn't cost that much to physically get garments off site. Could a profitable business be made? Yes, I don't see why not. I think it very much depends on the product and how attractive it is to the next consumer. And lastly, our brands as responsible for this as producers. So in France, in Europe, there are already existing EPR schemes, extender producer responsibility schemes, and they are coming to the UK, and they will make the manufacturer and the brand responsible for doing something ethical at the end of their life. So it will help prevent overproduction, or it will help prevent brands like Burberry, who have done it in the past, who have burned millions of pounds of items. So this will stop these things happening. Hope that answers multifactorial.
Perfect, thank you so much. And then on to our final question, if nobody else has any more. This is from Shay, who's a graduate, and they ask, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to launch a clothing line, and what factors must they take into consideration when finding a supplier and nailing the whole supply to delivery chain?
Well, considering suppliers, as part of our B Corp application, we need to consider all our suppliers and take into consideration what they do too. So it's not just us working in a silo on site. So I would consider suppliers, but in terms of launching a clothing line, it would depend on whether this is a clothing line that is intended for like circularity. If it's another clothing line which is for retail, it's difficult for me to comment because I'm very much a proponent of we need to consume less and utilize more of what we already have rather than actually extracting more natural virgin resources to make more things.
Thanks very much, Anthony, for answering all those questions. Really appreciate it and really appreciate your time. I think, listening to that, certainly the approach and the commitment that ACS has, driven by you, and I know Michael that's here today as well, like to be sustainable, to be socially accountable and good citizens is really, to be applauded. And I'm sure that we've all taken a lot of inspiration from that today, and we'll go and think about maybe the small steps that we can make as well, either in our own personal lives, but also maybe in the companies that we are working with, or for some of our students go on to work with. Want to take the time again to thank you as well for your support of GCU and the students, and helping to nurture the talent that's coming through the university here as well. We very much look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. The talk will be available on our YouTube channel, so anybody that wants to go back and revisit it, and also it will be promoted out to the wider student and graduate body. So really, if I could just ask everybody to give you a wee round of applause for those that have got their cameras on, and thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you back on campus next month. Thank you. Take care. We'll see you soon.